What if humanity got a 1,000-year head start, seemingly overnight? What if the single greatest collection of knowledge in the ancient world, the legendary Library of Alexandria, was never lost? It's easy to imagine a world where our scientific and social progress was never reset, a world where the ideas of antiquity fueled an uninterrupted march toward a future we can only dream of. Today, we're exploring how our world, our science, our technology, our entire society would be completely unrecognizable if that library had survived. Act 1. The setup. The world as it was. Before we get into the wild speculation, we have to appreciate what was actually lost. The great Library of Alexandria wasn't just a dusty building full of scrolls. It was the intellectual heartbeat of the ancient world. Founded around the 3rd century BCE by the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt, it was so much more than a library. It was a research university, a think tank, and a global magnet for the sharpest minds of the era. Think of it as a blend of a top university and the Library of Congress, but thriving 2,000 years before them. It's thought to have held a staggering number of papyrus scrolls, with modern estimates ranging from 40,000 to perhaps as many as 400,000. This was a repository of human thought unlike any other. And sure, they had copies of Homer meticulously edited and standardized, but they also had groundbreaking works of math, astronomy, engineering, medicine, and philosophy from across the known world: Greece, Persia, Egypt, India, and beyond. This is the place where Euclid laid down the foundations of geometry still taught in schools today. It's where Eratosthenes, with stunning ingenuity, calculated the circumference of the Earth using little more than a stick and some clever thinking. His estimate was remarkably close for the time, likely within 10 to 15% of the true value. It's where Hero of Alexandria created plans for the Aeolipile, essentially the first steam engine, which demonstrated the principles of jet propulsion. And it's where the astronomer Aristarchus of Samos first put forward a heliocentric model of the universe, placing the sun at the center, 17 centuries before Copernicus. This wasn't just a place for storing knowledge, it was a place for making it. A large community of scholars, perhaps over 100, lived and worked at the associated Mausion, or seat of the Muses. Their entire job was to research, debate, translate, and push the frontiers of what was known. They were true pioneers of empirical inquiry and rigorous textual criticism, laying the groundwork for scientific thought. Now we get to the famous ending. Pop history loves a simple story: one big fire, one tragic loss. The usual suspect is Julius Caesar, who during his siege of Alexandria in 48 BCE set fire to the Egyptian fleet, and the flames supposedly spread. But the truth is a lot more complicated, and frankly, a lot sadder. The library's end wasn't a single event, but a slow, painful decline over centuries. It was starved of funding, caught in the crossfire of political purges, like when Ptolemy VIII expelled all foreign scholars in 145 BCE, scattering its brain trust across the Mediterranean. It was damaged in multiple wars, including Emperor Aurelian's conquest of the city in the 270s CE. A daughter library in the Temple of Serapis was likely destroyed in 391 CE, when the emperor ordered the demolition of pagan temples. Whatever was left probably just faded away from neglect, the fragile papyrus scrolls turning to dust without scribes to recopy them. The library didn't just burn, it was starved, dismantled, and ultimately forgotten. But what if that didn't happen? This is our turning point. What if instead of this slow decay, the library got renewed, unwavering support? What if a succession of rulers saw it not as a political or religious symbol, but as the most valuable asset of human civilization? What if the Library of Alexandria was protected, funded, and allowed to flourish for millennia? What if that light was never allowed to go out? Act 2. The confrontation, the ripple effects through time. Immediate consequences, a brighter antiquity, first, 9th century CE. In our timeline, the centuries that followed the library's decline in the West are often called the Dark Ages. Now, modern historians correctly point out that this label is a bit unfair. Learning flourished in the Byzantine and Islamic worlds. But in a world where Alexandria is still a beacon, that intellectual dimming in Europe never really happens. The first and most immediate result is the preservation, and more importantly, the application of all that Hellenistic science. In our world, Hero of Alexandria's Aeolipile was just a cool toy. In this alternate timeline, with a thriving community of engineers all in one place, it's the start of something huge. Scholars at the Mouseion, armed with texts on physics and mechanics, start tinkering. They refine the design, increase the pressure, and figure out how to harness its power. By the 2nd century CE, that little novelty becomes a basic steam engine. It's not running locomotives, but it's perfect for automating tasks. Imagine Roman villas with steam-powered pumps for irrigation, or Alexandrian workshops using automated looms. The Roman Empire in this world doesn't just have great roads, it has the beginnings of mechanical power. This boost spreads everywhere. The Antikythera mechanism, that stunningly complex astronomical clock from our timeline, wouldn't be a one-off mystery found in a shipwreck. Its principles would be understood and replicated. By the 4th century CE, scholars could have devices to predict eclipses and track planets with incredible accuracy. This would revolutionize not just astronomy, but navigation. Medicine would also take a massive leap. The library held the works of physicians like Herophilus, who performed the first scientific dissections of human bodies. In our history, that research was mostly lost, and a taboo against dissection stopped anatomical progress for 1,000 years. Here it never stops. Alexandrian doctors map the nervous system and understand the heart is a pump. They develop antiseptic practices, maybe using wine or vinegar, based on observing infection rates recorded in medical texts. When plagues strike, this world isn't helpless. Doctors understand contagion. They advocate for quarantine and sanitation. Millions of lives lost in our history are saved. At the same time, the world's intellectual landscape shifts. The rise of Christianity still happens, but it looks very different. Theologians in Alexandria have access to the complete works of Plato, Aristotle, and the Stoics. They also have translations of Zoroastrian and Hindu texts. Religious debate becomes fiercer, but far more informed. The synthesis of faith and reason that took centuries to develop in our timeline happens much earlier. The idea of burning books would seem insane when the world's most revered institution is a library dedicated to preserving all knowledge. The Western Roman Empire probably still falls. That was about politics and economics, but it doesn't leave behind an intellectual vacuum. While Europe breaks up politically, Alexandria remains the world's capital of knowledge, a lighthouse for scholars from the fractured Western kingdoms, the Persian Empire, and India. The Dark Ages in Europe become less a period of darkness and more one of political reorganization, all while staying connected to Alexandria's vast intellectual resources. The New Renaissance and the Age of Reason, 900s, 1400s. By the year 1000, our alternate timeline is unrecognizable. The era we call the High Middle Ages is, in this world, a period of global progress that makes our own Renaissance look quaint. The seeds planted centuries ago have now grown into mighty trees. The real catalyst is information technology. Those early Alexandrian steam engines are now more powerful, but the true revolution happens when they combine mechanical power with another preserved art, printing. Around the 9th century, this timeline sees the invention of a steam-powered mechanical printing press. Suddenly, books aren't rare treasures copied by hand. They can be mass-produced. Literacy, once for the elite, explodes across the civilized world. This flood of knowledge kicks off a scientific awakening centuries ahead of schedule. Aristarchus's heliocentric model, studied for 1,000 years, isn't a fringe theory anymore. With better optics, another field nurtured by the library, astronomers build powerful telescopes in the 11th century. They see Jupiter's moons and Venus's phases, proving the Earth orbits the Sun. There's no Galileo affair. The debate is settled by evidence available to anyone with a book and a telescope. The world map is also redrawn. Geographers in Alexandria have been compiling maps for centuries. They know the Earth is a sphere and they know its size. Paired with better navigational tools, this sparks a new age of discovery. But it's not a European-led colonial project. Alexandria is the hub. Egyptian, Greek and Roman sailors set out on ships powered by sail and auxiliary steam engines. They round Africa 500 years before Vasco da Gama. They reach the Americas in the 12th century, but the dynamic is completely different. They arrive not as conquerors, but as explorers from a civilization that, thanks to the library, has a deep philosophical tradition that values other cultures. The exchange is still disruptive, but it's more of a true exchange of ideas and technology, not a one-sided conquest. Society transforms, with the printing press spreading political ideas from Plato to new thinkers. Concepts of democracy and individual rights go viral. Feudalism collapses much faster. In its place, merchant republics and city-states, inspired by Athens and Rome, become the norm. It's not a utopia, but it's a world where political reform is happening centuries earlier. The age of accelerated discovery, 1500s, 1800s. As we enter the period of our scientific revolution, this alternate world is already deep into its own industrial and atomic age. The compounding of knowledge has created something futuristic. Steam engines have been mostly replaced. Building on the preserved atomic theories of Democritus and centuries of advanced chemistry, scholars in Alexandria begin to unlock the secrets of the atom. Around 1650, they build the first controlled nuclear reactor in the Egyptian desert. This provides clean, virtually limitless energy. Cities are lit by nuclear-powered grids. The soot-choked nightmare of our industrial revolution never happens. They leap straight from steam to atomic power. This energy fuels an explosion in technology. With the atom at their command, humanity looks to the stars. The principles of rocketry, described in Hero's ancient works, are combined with advanced metallurgy and computing. The first manned mission to the moon happens not in 1969, but sometime in the late 17th century. By 1800, there are permanent bases on the moon and Mars. Medicine has become almost miraculous. Germ theory was confirmed centuries early with the perfection of the microscope. By the 18th century, they have vaccines for most diseases and are now delving into genetics. Diseases like cancer and cystic fibrosis are understood on a molecular level. The average human lifespan has stretched well past 100 years. Society is a global confederation of states, linked by instant communication and rapid transit. The Library of Alexandria is no longer one building but a decentralized global network, a planetary brain, its knowledge digitized and available to all. The guiding philosophy is one of curiosity, evidence, and a deep appreciation for all knowledge. This is a world that may have avoided some of our worst scars, like the transatlantic slave trade or the world wars. But it would face its own unique challenges: the ethics of genetic modification, the dangers of atomic weapons, the ennui of a post-scarcity society. Their problems are the problems of a civilization 1,000 years ahead of us. Act 3, the resolution, the world today. So what does the present day look like in this timeline? To us, it would be a science fiction paradise. Humanity is a multi-planetary species, with cities on Mars and research bases across the solar system. taking its first steps toward the stars. On Earth, fusion and geothermal energy provide for everyone's needs. The climate is stable, managed by a planetary science 2 millennia in the making. Deserts are being terraformed and oceans cultivated. Society is governed by a fluid, direct democracy, aided by sophisticated AI, the descendants of those early calculators that models policy outcomes. But the AI is a tool, not a ruler. Its programming built on 2,000 years of preserved philosophical debate. Medicine has conquered aging. Humans can choose to live for centuries. The focus has shifted from curing disease to enhancing human potential. But the biggest difference isn't the tech, it's the culture. Having never had a dark age, this civilization has an unbroken connection to its entire history. A schoolchild can read Sophocles in the original Greek and then access commentaries written by scholars who lived only a few generations after him. The very idea of lost knowledge is horrifying to them. It all started with one simple thing: the preservation of knowledge. That single act prevented an intellectual winter. It sparked an early, supercharged renaissance. That led to an accelerated industrial revolution, a clean atomic age, and an age of exploration that took humanity to the stars. The dominoes fell, one after another, in a cascade of progress. And that leaves us with a final haunting thought. Our own world is a testament to the incredible resilience of the human spirit. We still reach the moon and split the atom after having to rediscover so much. We clawed our way back from a great forgetting. But this alternate timeline is a powerful reminder of what we lost. It shows that history isn't a straight line, it's fragile. One library, left to stand, might have put us among the stars 1,000 years ago. It begs the question, what knowledge are we losing today? What digital or physical libraries are we letting decay? The ghost of Alexandria doesn't just haunt the past. It's a warning for our future, a reminder that preserving knowledge is the most important duty we have to the generations yet to come. What do you think would be the biggest change in a world where the library survived? Would humanity have avoided its worst mistakes or just found new, bigger ones to make? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy exploring these alternate histories, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell for more journeys into the world of what if.